Hello guys, Frederick here and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk about how to become a Blue Book trainee at the European Commission, and I'm going to share with you 5 key steps that can make a huge difference between getting in or not. But before that, a quick word about me. My name is Frederick. I'm an international lawyer based in Brussels, Belgium. I have 15 years working experience moving across countries and working as an international lawyer. And in my channel, I share stuff about personal development, professional development, lawyering, with the goal to help as many people as possible follow this journey. And most importantly, for the purposes of this video, I've been a Blue Book trainee myself back at the beginning of 2014, and I know what it takes to get in. And if it wasn't enough, I'm often involved in Blue Book selection processes as an official of the European Commission. And before we start, I also want to share some basic information about the Blue Book traineeship of the European Commission. What is it? It's a paid traineeship with a duration of 5 months. It starts either in March or in October, so it has 2 sessions. And in order to apply, you must have completed a bachelor degree. So any bachelor degree is fine, and you must not have worked for an EU institution or body for more than 6 weeks. And if you clicked on this video, you certainly know that it's a very competitive selection process. There are around 1,000 spots for each session, for the March and for the October session, and there are tens of thousands of applicants. So bear with me, because I'm gonna help you to smash your application. Let's go through the 5 key steps. So the first step is to show real motivation, and this is really the most important part of the application. Here's why. So you need to clearly explain why you want to become a Blue Book trainee, and it has to sound genuine and personal. And don't just say, I am passionate about the EU. Everyone says it. Everyone says, I have an interest in the EU, I want to pursue an EU career. You have to explain the reasons for it. So for instance, talk about the reasons that led you there. Maybe you studied EU law, you took a course in EU politics, or maybe you just worked on a project which had a link with EU policies. Explain the reasons for it. And you have to be as specific as possible. For instance, you're interested in competition policy or in energy policy. You can mention that DG Competition or DG Environment worked on some of the projects that you're interested in, that you worked on, and be specific about the reasons why you want to apply to that specific DG. So the more precise, the better. You may want to explain that, for instance, you wrote a dissertation during your academic studies about certain EU topics, or you worked on some EU policies, so be specific about that. And also, try to link your specific motivation to some of the EU values, for instance, rule of law, democracy, sustainability. Link your real interests, your motivation to some of these values, and make it clear in your application. You have to show you understand the purpose of the EU, not just the organization, the structure, or maybe the interest in the prestige that the EU has. You have to go beyond this in your motivation. The second step is to master languages, and I know this is a big deal. In fact, in order to apply, you have to master at least 2 EU languages, and one of them has to be English, French, or German. But let me be clear in this respect, English is the first working language of the EU Commission and the EU institutions, so you have to master it very well, followed by French and German. So I would really encourage you to focus on your English, but also on the other languages, because these languages, you will need them on a daily basis for writing emails, for reports, for conversations, for informal interactions on a daily basis. And the more languages you know, the better, even the less spoken ones. So even if you master languages like Slovak, Hungarian, or Latvian, that can be very useful. I clearly remember situations in which I witnessed trainees mastering these less widely spoken languages being fundamental and essential for certain projects, because they could communicate directly, for instance, with national authorities, or they could interact in these languages, and this was fundamental. So in your application form, you will be asked to rate your language skills about any language you know. Reading, writing, speaking. You will have to be as accurate as possible. And these language skills will be evaluated throughout the process. So try to be as specific as possible about any of your language skills, because even the small ones, they can be useful in your application process. And when I say don't exaggerate, I mean don't do it, because during the various application phases, you may be asked about these language competencies. So make sure your language levels are accurate, and if you're using some of those languages in your application form, make sure that someone, maybe a native speaker, reviews your application and checks it before you submit it. Then the third step is to highlight any international academic or professional experience you may have. In fact, the Blue Book program is international by nature, so stressing your international experience, your previous international experience, helps a lot. And even if you're a recent graduate, Mention any relevant experience abroad, away from your own country. Erasmus, summer programs, internships abroad, anything that shows adaptability and openness. So if your academic or university studies were focused on EU affairs or international law, you have to highlight that. And for sure, some universities like the College of Europe, Maastricht University, ULB in Brussels, or King's College and the other London universities are very well known for their EU focus, so you have to stress it. And yes, while some universities have more appeal than others, it's true, any university offering EU-related content is very valuable. And the same reasoning applies to any international professional exposure. So if you, for instance, took part in any internship or professional experience abroad, you have to focus on that in your application form. In fact, showing that you have international academic or professional exposure will show the Commission and the evaluators reviewing your application form that you have what you need in order to be fit for the role. And most importantly, that you can thrive in multicultural, multilingual environments, which is what the EU is about. Then, step 4, you have to show you know the EU and the role of the Commission. And now, this is where you can really stand out. And you don't need to know everything about the EU, but you have to show an understanding and demonstrate that you know what the EU is about, what the Commission does, what the other institutions do, and also how the various EU bodies interact. For instance, you have to show you know the basics. What is it the Commission does compared to the Parliament or to the Council? You know the role of the main DGs and the main policy areas. And if you're interested in a specific field, for instance competition, environment or trade, show that you know what this is about. Show that you know what's happening there. To give an example, you may want to mention a specific EU initiative, a piece of legislation, a regulation that particularly caught your attention. You may want to say, I was particularly interested in the EU's Digital Markets Act and the way that it's changing the technology landscape. You will show that you are very much informed and aware of what's happening. Because the more you show that you have a genuine interest and understanding about the role of the Commission and about the role of the EU institutions, the more chances you will have that your application will be considered. Then, step 5, and this is very personal to me and in my view the most important, you have to have the right mindset. And what do I mean by that? In my personal experience, I wasn't selected for the Blue Book traineeship the first time I applied. I wasn't selected for the Blue Book traineeship the second time I applied. I was accepted on my 3rd attempt. So yes, persistence is key. Being selected for the Blue Book traineeship is a very competitive process and you might not get in right away. That's perfectly normal and you have to keep going. You have to keep having a positive mindset. So what truly matters is how you respond to those difficulties, to that very competitive process and how you face it and how you keep going. You really have to stay strong and solid throughout the whole process. And if you don't get in right away, that's fine. Every time you apply, every second application you do, try to improve your file. Refine your motivation letter, add working experiences, add new skills. Make your story stronger than before. And here is a pro tip, something that really helped me a lot when I finally managed to be selected for the Blue Book traineeship. Before sending your application, if you can, try to have it reviewed by someone who went through it before, who did the Blue Book traineeship before, or even by someone who knows how EU applications work. That's exactly what I did. I asked a former Blue Book trainee, a friend of mine, to review my application and to review my motivation letter. And not only that, I also asked an English native speaker, because the application was done in English, to review it and to review language and the tone that I had used. And at that point, I made it. Because I had the right mindset, I always tried to improve my application and to bring something new to the table. So having the right mindset to me means you stay patient, you stay focused, you stay resilient. So you learn, you grow, and eventually you will get there. So to conclude, in order to have a very strong Blue Book application, you have to 1. Show a real and strong motivation. 2. Master EU languages as much as possible, in particular English. 3. Highlight any relevant international, academic or professional experience you had. 4. Demonstrate a real EU knowledge and knowledge about the role of the Commission. And 5. Most importantly, have the right mindset. And I'm pretty sure that if you follow these steps and stay consistent throughout the process, you will have very good chances to make it to the Blue Book traineeship. And if you have questions about the Blue Book process or you want me to cover any specific step in more detail, drop it in the comments below. I read all of them and I reply to all of them. And if this video was helpful or you enjoyed it in any possible way, please like, comment and subscribe to the channel. It will help me very much in my YouTube journey. Thank you very much for watching and for following, and good luck with your Blue Book application process. Peace.